Okay, greetings everyone. Welcome to Gerard Black in the Philippines with the Truth. I'm going to welcome you to my channel. Welcome all my subscribers, all my soon-to-be subscribers, all my, hey, let's check this dude out. All my scallywags, peaches, triggers, haters, lovers, commenters, each and every one of you. I want to thank you for stopping by my channel. Well, today's Sunday, and today's the day when Calvin's going to put together a basketball team that's supposed to come this morning at about 10 a.m. And so if you don't think I'm going to document that whole ordeal or fiasco, either way, I will, and I will bring it to you and kind of let you know the ins and outs of putting together a basketball team here in the Philippines. Calvin's been wanting to do this. He's tried coaching, or he's tried coming aboard a couple of teams as coaching and whatever. You have to hear the way he tell it. But anyway, this is what we're going to be doing today. The basketball team. Yesterday we had a very good day. We went back to Forest Camp where we celebrated my best man at my wedding's 20th wedding anniversary, and it was very nice. We had a lot of people who to join us and had a good time splashing around in the water, playing cards, talking, and what have you. It's always a good conversation when I'm with my friend. He is German. He's I learned a lot of my worldly, or even a lot of my opinions, or history from listening to other people, for talking to people who have been there or who are a lot more educated than I am, which doesn't take a whole lot to be in that number. But, I enjoy listening to people who, I guess, who know what they're talking about, So we get together and we were chatting and whatever. He has the Kingsman's kennel, dog kennel. I spoke about that to you, about breeding German Shepherds. But he's also did a Google website, where you Google in whatever. And, there are, that's what I want to do. I want a Wikipedia page. I want a Google website. When someone put photos by Gerard, poof, and, I come up, and, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to put it together. I don't know how to make that happen for myself. I had a website one time, I think it was called Market America, where I was really into loading my images and all that stuff. You got to understand, I have a lot of your history, photographically wise, from the entertainment business, from just my art as a photographer that I like to show off. I want to leave behind, that history, that deep dive of who I am, and and accomplishments I've done. I have a lot of work with me, but I have many, many more in my storage unit in New York, where one day, hopefully soon, I will get back there and pull some of that out, or maybe transfer as much as I can of it back here to the Philippines. A lot of it's black and white, because that's when I came up in the era. I came up in the era of black and white, and I was a black and white lab technician where I processed and made enlargements. So, I'm very good at that. In fact, I had some of the best photographers in LA, wanted me to print their stuff because I had the eye of seeing that picture within a picture, and also being able to dodge and burn. Dodging is when, if if something has too much, or dodging it is when you want to make an area, like if there's a lot of light on it, you want to dodge and make it a little darker so it stands out, the details stand out more. And burn is when you burn it in, where it stands, where it comes, so you can see it a lot more vividly, and it's an art. That's all I can say. It's a lost art, and color came into the program where A lot of stuff is color separates itself, so there was really no real challenge in that. But with black and white, you have the grayscale, and the grayscale is where you have from black and the different shades of black and gray before it comes to white, and being able to control that, or it gives you a sense of um, skillfulness that I used to do for the newspapers and what have you. Where it's that, and I worked in a place called Producers. Producers is in Hollywood, and we handled. There was a time when you went to the movies, you saw pictures 8x10s in the windows that showed you scenes from the movies. Well, and underneath it had a caption stripped underneath the picture. Well, I was the one who stripped that, text under there. I'm the one who developed the picture into a negative, so this way they can make mass production of the image that got distributed all over the place. So it was really a respectful profession, and it soon, of course, the automation came in and digital came in, and digital kind of knocked out. It was like I told you once that once I learned how to process film and all that stuff, and I started hiring myself out as a black and white lab technician. There was um, I would go to a lab. I look at the newspaper, look for lab technicians, black and white lab technicians, and I would go there and I would apply for it. And then the owner of the place would show me this huge, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, processor. Because you also had to learn how to make PMP, stats, reduce, large, and all that stuff. And they would tell me, "Do you know how to work this machine?" And of course I didn't. I've never seen it before. It looked like a dozen eggs to me. But my answer was never no. My answer was, yeah, I know how to work it once I learned the procedure. And when you say something like that about learning the procedure, any owner, a CEO of any company, ears would prick up because everything has a procedure. And it's if you know enough to know about the procedure, then you know enough to know how to take care of this multi thousands of $1 million piece of equipment, because you just can't just jump in there and start pushing buttons. And when learning the procedure is what I would do is that they would assign a technician to me. Now, one thing any employer or any owner of a company hated to do was have to take a man off the job and keep showing you how to work the machine over and over again, because now you got two people who are not doing the job. So which makes for frustration, what makes for, hey, look, you got to go because you're costing me time and money. So what I would do is that I would walk behind the person who's showing me with a pad and pencil, and he would say, "First, you hit the red button." I write, "First, hit red button," and said, "Number two, adjust the dial to 150. Adjust the dial to 150. And then number two, I would write down the procedure, because you have to go through the procedure before you can get to the point where my skill set came in, that the work I had to do. So, that's what I did. So, the next day when I came to work, he says, "Can you work?" I said, "Yeah, man. Yeah, I got it." And I would go through my written procedure, and then I would get to the point where I could do my job. And it was always like, wow, this guy, he got on it fast, And so I was really a standout when it came to that. It reminded me, speaking about the auto working industry right now, that is being in the news because of striking. I used to work for the auto industry. I used to work for Ford Motor Company. When I got out of service in 73, my stepfather was worked in. He was an electrician, and I was just getting out. I couldn't have been out of the service or back home for or that episode from the service. I could not have been home for maybe about a week. And he says, "Come on, I'll get your job at Ford." And I'm like, Joe, wait, Joe. So pump your brakes, Joe. Can a brother just chill for a little while? So of course I didn't. I went to work at Ford Motor Company. And I worked on the assembly line, but because I was good with my hands, I got to the position of I was putting each section has you have trim section, you have a body section, you have different sections, and I was utility. Now utility is a position that whereas that I was given a section of trim, and if everybody came in, then I had the option of uh, uh, getting paid for 3 or 4 hours and go home, or either I can work all day in the executive garage. An executive garage was washing the cars of the executives and cleaning them, all this stuff like this or whatever. It was a cush job. I always chose to go home. What the hell, money for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, utility was where that I could get on the line. If someone was out in my section, they say, Gerard, hold the line, and I would get on there, and I would learn how to do the job when the line was going through, and I could pick it up so fast that whereas that I would be able to hold the line the whole day. And so, while a lot of times when other employers or employees were hollering about there's too much work on the line, there's too much they have to do, their answer was, well, it can't be hard. Gerard just got on and learned it. He's holding the line. So, what are you talking about? It's too much, like this. So, some guys hated me, some guys liked me, but the main thing was that, I was good with my hands and I learned the procedure. I learned how to do things. So anyway, that was what I did when with the auto industry, and then of course what happened with at that time in the auto industry. At this time, they were opening it up to a lot of foreigners. They were hiring now people from Chile. They were hiring people from a lot of the third world. I don't say third world countries, from other countries, and they saturated the employees of the auto industry. Saturated to the point that we had a policy that if the temperature in a plant got to like 110 degrees or 120 degrees, we stopped working, and then we would go home, and so, and get paid, because that was in the union thing, right? So there was one time the temperature got up to that point, and we staged a walkout. So we walked out, but the only ones who didn't walk out were the foreigners, the ones who who were used to getting maybe making $50 a month in their country, a week in their country, and now they come to the U.S. and now you're making like about 400 a week. It's like, oh no, man, we not go nowhere. We stay right here. Heat or no heat, no problem. We going to work. And so it turned out that we didn't have the body support that what we needed in order to be effective when it came to striking. And so as a result, a lot of us who walked off didn't get paid that day. But ultimately, the Ford Motor Company, bellied up. And one of the reasons why, not bellied up, it just, it closed, the plant closed. But one of the reasons that this was a time when they were starting to use robotics. Our plant was the one that they installed all these robotic things for like weathering the car bodies, and certain jobs they start using robotic means of putting the car together, which meant that there were a lot of people who were losing their jobs. And so that ultimately happened. I got laid off, which was fine, because when you get laid off, you get about, I don't know, about 85 to 90% of your salary for about a year or 2 years, and it was cool. So anyway, so you know, that was the thing as far as job and work experience was concerned. Okay, so anyway, so what I want to talk to you about, and this is in reply to some of my viewers who want to comment on my relationship, or comment on my CeeLo, on how I do things, as far as women are concerned, a lot of, I'm going to tell you a story. There was this girl. I love starting my stories when there was this girl. When I was learning to play tennis, I was hitting to play tennis, and the instructor he had an assistant, and her name was Tata, and here she is here. Okay, and Tata was the one who I would volley with to learn how to play the game, and then ultimately her husband would come, and he would come and sit, you know, and and watch, us play, you know. I think it was a little bit of maybe jealousy, a little bit like this, because everybody, everybody always has a good time when Gerard is around. Point blank, period. You know. So anyway, so I was talking about my friend, my best man, that we had a good conversation, and my wanting to build a. Let me kind of sell things up. I wanted to build a Google search or a Wikipedia page, and his daughter's going to help me. So anyway, so that's the end of that story. So anyway, so he would come and say hello. They had a little son. His name was oh my God. It didn't come to me. I love the boy. I love children, and she had 3 kids, and she had 2 teenage sons and daughters. I think they were twins or something like that. One boy, one girl. And so, you know, what happened was that he died suddenly of a heart attack. Just dropped dead and died. Young guy, and so, you know, um, you feel sorry for whatever. So, her and I, started getting a little close. I was in a house and like this and what have you. And so, our house was, to say it had 4 walls would be an understatement. It had walls, but there just was nothing blocking the wind or anything like this. Something like boom booms, our house, if you remember that. And so, I had got it in me that, the maybe, this one might be the one for me. So, she didn't speak no English. It's amazing when you date a girl who speaks no English. The communications, or the way they're communicating is always interesting, but you do get your point across, So she spoke no English, and so I told her, I would help build your house. So I called 2 friends of mine, and they were into construction. And so they came and, they counted how many bricks they need for this wall, what they need for the floor, how to seal up this area. And so our goal was for my goal was to rebuild her house, you know. So after we took the measurements and all this stuff and we went back and all this stuff, then COVID struck. COVID struck and locked everything down. You couldn't move anywhere in any directions unless you had to go to Barangay Hall to get a number. So this way there were certain numbers that were allowed to travel to Dumaguete, and certain numbers that were allowed to move around, or those who had certain jobs could move around, but it's very, very restrictive, and moving became virtually impossible. So it became very difficult for me to get over there, uh, not only to see her, but to go with my plan to building a house. It was off the table. So anyway, so one day I was driving, and I was coming back, and it was raining, and I was at a checkpoint. And this checkpoint, I saw this girl walking. And I said, "My bulldog." And she said, "My bulldog." I said, "Asaka." Uh, I said, "I mean, where are you going?" And she said, "Bacon." I said, "Come on, I'll give you a ride." So she got in the car and got a road and rode. It was raining. She had an umbrella, so I guess she really couldn't see me. But she thought that I was a Filipino. Because of course I'm speaking to her. So we're driving and we're talking, and I asked her name, and her name was Tata. I said, "Oh wow, really? What a coincidence!" So anyway, so I drove her to her scooter. Now she was working somewhere as a domestic worker, but she didn't have a license. Her bike wasn't registered, so she would drive to a certain area that was safe, get off her bike, and then she would take a tricycle, to work. So being a good Samaritan I am, I offered, hey, look, this is the time I was playing tennis, and by the time I figured I was back, I said, look, I would meet you there and I would drive you to work. So she agreed. So every morning, it became like a job. She would park a bike and I would pick her up and I would take her and drive her to work. And at that time, I would meet my best man. This is where this is coming from. Let's sum it up. I met him and his wife and his three kids, who was with us yesterday. It was his anniversary. So I became very much a part of the family, or they were my extended family, because not only did I see him every day, dropping her off from work, but I talked to the kids, and we all had our own little, communication, our own thing that we talked to. Most of the time, I ended up having to wait till she got off work, or like this. And he was always so knowledgeable about stuff that he would tell me stuff that it was always enjoyable to sit and listen to him, or us to have a conversation and talk about the Philippines, and some of the ventures that he's done. And he's been a millionaire several times, and what have you. And I think he's doing quite well now, as quiet as he's kept. Okay, Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will. My phone got full and delete and all this stuff and what have you. And now the house is waking up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this right here, and I'll pick it up another time to finish telling you this story. You're going to like it, all right? Okay, you're watching Gerard Black in the Philippines with the truth. Remember, dreams are nothing more than plans awaiting action. Never disrespect the elderly. Always pull someone up. And sometimes you're the only one to see your vision. Come here. And the best revenge in life is to live good. I'm living good today. I hope you are too. And if you're lucky enough to have a woman like Ollie Woodson, former lead singer of The Temptation, once said, do what? Treat her like a lady. And ladies, if you're lucky enough to have a good man like me, make him feel like a king. And what?
Don't say no.
We had a good time at Forest Camp yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Okay, so remember, we will always love you more. I'll finish the story another time. Don't worry, it's a goodie. I'll talk to you later. Throw me a kiss. Mwah. Goodbye.